What does it take to destroy a child star? Cameron Diaz once said something that stops you cold. She looked at her best friend Drew Barrymore and told the world, "You can't even comprehend how hard it was to be her as a child." And then she shot out the other end with the ability to save herself.
It's ironic because it's made me like the pillars of appropriateness as a parent.
This isn't just another Hollywood tragedy. This is the story of a little girl thrown into a nightmare that most adults couldn't survive, watched over decades later by the one friend who never turned away. Behind Drew's infectious smile and bubbly personality lies a childhood so dark, so twisted.
Did E.T., it sort of solidified like the only family I know are these film crews, these gypsies, these filmmakers.
That when you hear the full truth, you'll understand why Cameron's words carry such weight. This is about survival, about a friendship that became a lifeline, and about secrets that Hollywood tried to bury.
Every person on my dad's side of the family keeled over from drugs and alcohol.
What really happened to Drew Barrymore? And how did Cameron Diaz become the witness to one of the most disturbing childhoods in entertainment history? The Barrymore name carries weight in Hollywood. For 400 years, this family has been synonymous with entertainment royalty. But behind the glamour, behind the accolades and the standing ovations, there's a poison running through the bloodline. Drew Barrymore was born in 1975 into this legacy, but she inherited more than just talent. Her grandfather, John Barrymore, was considered the greatest actor of his generation, a Shakespearean legend who commanded every stage he graced. But alcoholism consumed him, and in 1942, at just 60 years old, he died from kidney failure and cirrhosis, his body destroyed by decades of drinking.
You really have to be careful. You have to really pick things, and I think that if you're demanding enough and saying, no, I'm not going to do those films.
His daughter, Drew's Aunt Diana, followed the same path. She made a few films in the 1940s, showed promise, but addiction ruined everything. In 1960, she was found dead from an overdose. Then there's Drew's father, John Drew Barrymore. He had some acting credits in the 1950s, but he's better remembered for something else: violence. He was a raging alcoholic who beat his wife, who terrorized his family. One time, when he was supposed to be babysitting little Drew, he decided to show her his new karate moves. He kicked her, punched her, until she cried out asking why he always caused so much pain. When Drew was just 6 months old, he left. He stormed into their apartment years later, not to see his daughter, but to grab a bottle of tequila. That was their relationship. Drew grew up knowing her father only as an absence, a ghost who chose alcohol over his own child. The Barrymore legacy wasn't just about acting. It was about addiction, about destruction, about a genetic curse that seemed impossible to escape. Scientists have proven that alcoholism and drug addiction carry a strong genetic component. For Drew, born into this bloodline, the odds were stacked against her before she even took her first breath. Her parents divorced when she was 9, and her father essentially vanished from her life. He was a violent alcoholic, a man who couldn't be a father even if he tried. Drew was left alone with her mother, Jade, and that's when things went from bad to absolutely horrifying. Jade Barrymore was a single mother trying to survive. She worked as a waitress 6 nights a week, struggling to make ends meet. But Jade had zero understanding of what it meant to be a parent, zero ability to protect her daughter. She was a wild child herself. And when Drew's career took off after E.T. the Extraterrestrial made her a star at age 7, Jade quit her job and became Drew's full-time manager. That's when the real nightmare began. Drew was 9 years old when her mother gave her a choice. Do you want to go to school and get bullied all day, or do you want to go to Studio 54? That's what Jade asked her daughter. Studio 54, the infamous New York nightclub known for its drug-fueled, out-of-control parties. And Drew, just a little girl who wanted to please her mother, chose Studio 54. For a year, Drew went clubbing with her mother and her adult friends up to 5 nights a week. 5 nights a week. She was 9 years old, surrounded by adults doing substances, drinking, living in excess. Drew described it as Disneyland for adults, only I got to be a part of it. But she wasn't supposed to be part of it. She was a child. Her first taste of alcohol came even earlier, when she was just 8 years old. At a wrap party for the movie Firestarter, Drew was left alone with crew members. They were drinking champagne, and Drew insisted she could handle it. "No, I bet I can," she told them. She drank 2 glasses and felt tipsy, bubbly, the life of the party. She felt so good, she said. All her problems seemed to disappear for that hour. That's when it started. By age 9, Drew was drinking regularly. Her mother didn't allow her to have sugar, but adult beverages? Those were fine. At Rob Lowe's 20th birthday party, Jade abandoned her 9-year-old daughter to go have her own fun. That night, Drew had her first beer, her first makeout session. By 10, she was smoking marijuana. By 12, she was addicted to cocaine. Jade didn't see anything wrong with this. She treated Drew more like a best friend than a daughter. There were no boundaries, no protection, no rules. Drew danced with famous men at these clubs, was exposed to situations no child should ever witness. Her mother's friends included people like Billy Idol, and Drew was right there with them. living a lifestyle that would destroy most adults. Jade created a monster she couldn't control, and by the time Drew hit 12, Hollywood had seen enough. By age 12, Drew Barrymore was blacklisted. The little girl who had charmed the world in E.T., who had shown so much promise, was now considered unemployable. Producers wanted nothing to do with her. Her drug use was out of control, her behavior erratic. The industry that had made her famous turned its back completely. Jade finally realized something had to be done. At 13, she sent Drew to rehab. But this wasn't some celebrity wellness retreat. Drew spent time in a facility, trying to get clean, trying to understand what had happened to her life. It didn't stick. When Drew was 13, she hit what she described as her lowest point. Just knowing that I really was alone, she said years later, and it felt terrible. It was a really rebellious time. I would run off. I was very, very angry. That anger came from somewhere deep, from the realization that her parents had failed her completely. Her father was gone. Her mother had enabled her destruction. At 13, Jade made another decision. She sent Drew to Van Nuys Behavioral Health Hospital, a psychiatric institution. Drew would spend 18 months there. This wasn't a luxury facility with spa treatments and meditation classes. This was a place for the mentally ill, and Drew was locked up with them. She was terrified at first. She didn't think she belonged there. Yes, she had problems, but mentally ill? The institution was strict, demanding. But something happened during those 18 months. Drew began to understand herself. The therapy sessions forced her to confront emotions she'd been bearing with alcohol and drugs. She had to face her feelings of low self-esteem, her resentment toward her mother, her bitterness about her childhood. It was terrifying to come face to face with feelings she'd pushed away for so long. The facility taught her about telling the truth, about sharing her story, her feelings, her faults, her hopes. It taught her who would help her on her path and who she needed to let go. And at the end of those 18 months, Drew knew what she had to do. She had to walk away from her mother. The institution didn't just treat Drew, they gave her advice that would change her life. They recommended legal emancipation from her mother. At 14 years old, Drew Barrymore went to court to become an adult. The day of the hearing was surreal. Her mother was there, and Jade supported the emancipation. They both knew their relationship had been driven into the ground, that too much had happened. Drew felt overwhelming sadness, but she also knew it was necessary. The judge walked in, the proceedings went by in a blur. And when it was over, Drew was legally free from her parents. She was 14 years old and completely on her own. Years later, Drew would describe the emancipation as the worst pain I've ever known. Cutting ties with her mother at that age, even though it was necessary, left scars that would take decades to heal. But in that moment, Drew thought freedom would solve everything. She was wrong. Being emancipated meant being truly alone. Drew found a tiny apartment in a dangerous neighborhood. The place was a disaster. Fungus grew on the walls. The building was falling apart. She had bars on the windows and could hear alley cats fighting 30 feet away. She was terrified to sleep at night. This was her life at 14, legally an adult, but still just a child, scared and alone in a terrible apartment. Her acting career was over. Hollywood wanted nothing to do with the troubled former child star. For 3 years, Drew worked menial jobs to survive. She cleaned toilets, worked in restaurants, took whatever she could get. The girl who had been on top of the world at 7 was now scraping by at 14. No family, blacklisted by the industry, institutionalized, living in poverty. Most people would have given up. Most people would have been destroyed by what Drew had been through. A childhood stolen, a mother who failed her, an industry that used her and discarded her. But Drew had something inside her, some spark of survival that refused to go out completely. She needed help though. She needed someone to believe in her when she couldn't believe in herself. And that help would come from an unexpected place, a coffee shop in Beverly Hills. At 14, Drew was working in a Beverly Hills coffee shop, serving drinks to people living the life she used to have. One day, a 16-year-old girl walked in. Her name was Cameron Diaz, and she was just starting out as a model. Drew served Cameron's table, and something clicked between them. Maybe it was their ages, both teenagers trying to navigate Hollywood. Maybe it was something deeper, some recognition of kindred spirits. They started talking, and a casual friendship formed. Cameron saw something in Drew that others missed. She didn't see the troubled former child star, the girl with the scandalous past. She saw Drew, the real person underneath all the trauma. They stayed in touch over the years, maintaining their friendship, even as their careers took different paths. At 17, Drew finally caught a break. She landed a role in Poison Ivy, her first acting gig after the 3-year hiatus. It wasn't much, but it was a start. From there, Drew slowly rebuilt her career. Over the next 6 years, she starred in 16 films. Scream, The Wedding Singer, Batman Forever. These roles proved she still had talent, that she could make a comeback. Her father, despite being absent most of her life, gave her some advice during this period that helped her stay clean. He told her to keep working toward a better future, to not fall back into old habits. It was ironic, advice about sobriety from an alcoholic, but Drew took it to heart. She was clawing her way back, one role at a time, one day at a time. And through it all, Cameron was there. Their friendship was growing, deepening. Cameron was building her own career, becoming a massive star after films like The Mask. But she never forgot the girl from the coffee shop. The girl who had survived hell and was trying to rebuild her life. Cameron Diaz watched Drew's journey with a unique perspective. She hadn't known Drew during the worst of it, during the studio 54 years or the institution, but she knew the aftermath. She saw the scars, heard the stories, understood the depth of what Drew had endured. And she was amazed by Drew's resilience. In 2023, Cameron gave an interview that revealed just how deeply she understood her friend's pain. It was difficult to watch, Cameron said, talking about Drew's ongoing struggles. But I knew that if we all stuck with her and gave her the support she needed, she would find her way. Then she said something that cuts right to the heart of Drew's story. I have absolute faith in her. You can't even comprehend how hard it was to be her as a child. And then she shot out the other end with the ability to save herself. Think about those words. You can't even comprehend how hard it was to be her as a child. Cameron wasn't exaggerating. She had heard everything, knew the details of Drew's nightmare childhood, and she was telling the world that it was beyond comprehension. But she also recognized something else, Drew's incredible strength, her ability to save herself. In 2000, Cameron and Drew's friendship solidified in a way that would last forever. Drew was producing a reboot of Charlie's Angels, and when Cameron was cast, Drew specifically requested that Cameron be part of the film. They would star together, alongside Lucy Liu, in a movie about three women who were stronger together. The chemistry between them was electric. They weren't just acting, they were living out their real friendship on screen. Cameron later said that filming Charlie's Angels made them more like sisters. They spent the best years of their lives working together, building a bond that went far beyond Hollywood. Drew described Cameron in a way that shows just how much their friendship means. If you are in scary prison in the middle of nowhere, call Cameron. She gets you out. If you're looking for the best dinner cooking partner and watching TV on the couch friend, call her. If someone is in a medical situation, call her. She's the most loyal, fierce, fun, cozy friend. Over 30 years, their friendship has endured everything. Cameron never judged Drew for her past. She never used it against her or treated her like damaged goods. Instead, she saw Drew's survival as proof of her strength. Their bond was built on real things, heartbreak, love, life, loss. Never on vanity or career, never on the Hollywood facade that destroys so many relationships. They talked about important things, about their struggles and dreams. And critically, Cameron was there when Drew needed her most. By 2016, Drew Barrymore had built an incredible life. She was a successful actress, a producer, a businesswoman. She had starred in major hits throughout the 90s and 2000s. She seemed to have beaten the odds, escaped the curse of her childhood. But addiction doesn't work that way. It waits patient, ready to strike when life falls apart. In 2016, Drew's third marriage ended. She had married Will Kopelman, and they had two daughters together, Olive and Frankie. Drew had even moved to New York and put her career somewhat on hold to raise her daughters near Kopelman's family. She wanted to give them the stable family life she never had. When the marriage failed, it crushed her. Her dream family was falling apart, and Drew didn't know how to handle it. She turned to alcohol. Not casually, not socially. She drank heavily, constantly, using it to numb the pain of her divorce. The fear that she was failing her daughters, the terror that she was repeating her mother's mistakes. Her longtime therapist, Baron Michels, tried to help. But Drew's drinking was out of control, and after years of working together, Michels made a devastating decision. He quit on her. In an email, he explained that he couldn't continue therapy while Drew engaged in chronic self-destructive behaviors. He praised Drew as a strong and committed person, but he couldn't watch her destroy herself. Losing her therapist was a wake-up call, but not enough of one. Drew's friends started pulling away, unsure how to help someone who wouldn't help herself. But Cameron Diaz didn't leave. She watched Drew spiral, and it was difficult. Cameron described it as painful to witness, seeing her best friend fall back into the patterns that had almost killed her as a teenager. But Cameron never gave up. She rallied Drew's other friends, and they staged an intervention. They surrounded Drew and reminded her of everything good in her life. You've got 2 healthy kids, a fantastic career, incredible friends, they told her. Sometimes you need to be reminded of what you have when the darkness makes you forget. Cameron's approach was different from others. She didn't give Drew an ultimatum, didn't threaten to walk away if she didn't get sober. Instead, Cameron did something more powerful. She expressed absolute faith in Drew. I knew that if we all stuck with her and gave her the support she needed, she would find her way, Cameron explained. Why was Cameron so confident? Because she knew Drew's history. She knew that Drew had survived the unsurvivable as a child, that she had pulled herself out of addiction before, that she had the strength to do it again. Cameron walked with Drew through the darkness, never leaving her side, always believing in the best version of her friend. In 2019, Drew Barrymore received an offer that would change everything. She was asked to host her own daytime talk show. It was a massive opportunity, the kind that could define the next chapter of her career. But Drew knew something crucial. She couldn't do it while drinking. I think the opportunity at a show like this really hit me, Drew explained. I was like, I can't handle this unless I'm in a really clear place. After shooting the pilot for the Drew Barrymore show, she made a decision. She quit drinking. Not gradually, not with a plan to cut back. She just stopped. This wasn't her first time getting sober. She'd been through rehab as a teenager, had periods of sobriety throughout her life. But this time felt different. This time she had something to fight for that was bigger than herself. Her daughters, Olive and Frankie, became her biggest motivation. Drew had lived through the nightmare of having parents who put their own needs first, who failed to protect her, who exposed her to adult situations she couldn't handle. She was determined to break that cycle. I walked through the fire to come back to life for my daughters, Drew said. Being a mother triggered everything from her own childhood. Every time one of her daughters went through something that reminded Drew of her own past, she went straight to fear. She had to talk herself off the ledge, focus on being proactive, empathetic, providing discipline and boundaries and guidance. I have no blueprint, a crazy track record, and there's nothing I've ever wanted to get more right in my life, Drew admitted. She had no model for healthy parenting, no example to follow. Drew's approach to sobriety wasn't traditional. She didn't go to Alcoholics Anonymous, didn't work a 12-step program. She found her own path, one that worked for her life and her needs. She recognized that alcohol didn't serve her life anymore. It was hindering her personal growth, her happiness, her ability to be present for her daughters, so she let it go. Cameron's support during this time was invaluable. She never wavered in her belief that Drew could overcome this. We've experienced birth, life, marriage, divorce, highs and lows, work, boyfriends, friends, travel. There is nothing we haven't done together, Drew said about their bond. Cameron was there for the worst moments and the best moments. When Drew's therapist Barry Michelle's initially quit on her, it felt like abandonment. But after Drew got sober, they reconnected. Drew proved that she could change, that she could break free from the self-destructive patterns. Her talk show became a success, renewed for multiple seasons. And through it all, Cameron was her biggest cheerleader. Today, Drew Barrymore is doing what once seemed impossible. She's breaking the generational cycle of addiction and dysfunction that poisoned her family for decades. Her grandfather died from alcoholism. Her aunt died from an overdose. Her father was a violent alcoholic. Her mother enabled her addiction as a child. But Drew is rewriting the story for her daughters. Motherhood is surreal for Drew in ways most people can't understand. When she sees one of her kids going through something that reminds her of her own childhood, her first instinct is fear, but she doesn't let that fear control her. Instead, she gets proactive, empathetic. She focuses on discipline, boundaries, and guidance, all the things she never had. I knew I would not repeat the mistakes of my parents, Drew said. I knew I would never do that to a kid. I would not be there or put them in two adult circumstances. I would never have children unless I was incredibly stable and willing to put them first. She kept that promise to herself. Drew's daughters are growing up with the childhood she never had. They have a mother who is present, who protects them, who gives them boundaries. They're not going to nightclubs at 9 or drinking at 8. They're being allowed to be children. Drew refuses to let her past define her present. There's a choice to be had in how you see your circumstances, and I refuse to be stifled as a human being because of what I lived through as a kid, she said. Don't cloak me in this dark stuff. I don't want to take on anyone else's perception of what it should have been because I don't feel that way. That's an incredibly powerful statement. Drew acknowledges the horror of her childhood, but she won't let it become her identity. She survived, she grew, she changed. Cameron continues to be Drew's person, the friend who sees everything she is and stands by her side. All I have to do is stand in front of her, and she sees everything I am, everything I stand for, Drew wrote. That kind of acceptance, that deep understanding is rare in any friendship, but especially in Hollywood. Cameron defended Drew fiercely over the years, even walking out of interviews when hosts made inappropriate comments about Drew's past. During one radio interview, a host joked about hoping someone doesn't go through drug years like Drew. Cameron immediately called him out. "I'm sure you've never been through a drug phase, have you? Or alcoholism or anything like that. Pretty clean. Always did it right? Congratulations." Then she ended the interview and walked out. That's the kind of friend Cameron is. "Neither of us ever got lost in the Hollywood nonsense," Drew explained. "We just wanted to live our lives." Drew Barrymore's story is one of incomprehensible childhood trauma transformed into remarkable survival. From being taken to Studio 54 at 9 years old to legally emancipating herself at 14. From addiction and institutional care to a Hollywood comeback and successful talk show, Drew has lived multiple lifetimes of pain and triumph. But she didn't do it alone. Cameron Diaz witnessed it all, supported through decades of highs and lows, and never stopped believing in her friend's ability to save herself. Cameron's words, "You can't even comprehend how hard it was to be her as a child," aren't exaggeration. They're a stark truth about what Drew survived. A mother who took her to nightclubs instead of school, who treated her like a best friend instead of a daughter, who enabled her drug use before she even hit puberty, a father who was violent and absent, an industry that used her talent and discarded her when she became inconvenient. Genetic predisposition to addiction that seemed like an inescapable curse. Drew had every reason to fail, every excuse to give up, but she found something inside herself, some core of resilience that refused to be destroyed. And she found friends like Cameron who became her chosen family, providing the unconditional support her biological family never could. Today, Drew is thriving as a sober mother, breaking the generational cycle of addiction and dysfunction. She's giving her daughters the childhood she never had, full of boundaries, protection, and presence. Her talk show allows her to connect with others who have struggled, creating a space for honest conversations about trauma and recovery. And through it all, Cameron remains her person, her sister in everything but blood. Drew's journey proves that recovery is possible, that the past doesn't have to define the future, that with the right support and inner strength, you can overcome even the most horrifying circumstances. But it also highlights something else: the critical importance of having people in your life who believe in you, even when you can't believe in yourself. Cameron's unwavering faith in Drew, her refusal to give up or walk away, helped save her friend's life. Their friendship shows us that real love isn't about perfection or never struggling. It's about standing by someone through the darkness, reminding them of their light when they can't see it themselves. Drew Barrymore survived the unsurvivable, and Cameron Diaz bore witness to that survival, becoming part of the story of resilience that continues to inspire millions.